Welcome everybody to the Business Builder Podcast. I have here in the studio with me today, we have Robert Harman from Tint World. And Tint World, you do too much stuff, man. What do you do?
Yeah, it's hard to say in one breath. We have 30 services, most popular ones being window tint, ceramic coating, paint protective film, wheels and tires, leather kits, audio video lighting, pretty much anything fun you can do with a car.
Right. And not only that, you also tint the windows, but you also do flat surfaces for residential and commercial buildings too.
Yep, so we do a lot of off-site stuff. So we do marine, we do commercial, we do residential, and then we also do home audio as well. So even fun stuff for your home.
Home audio too? Really? Mm-hmm. Who knew? I didn't know that, man. I am going to bring my Jeep there because I got to get that joker back rumble ready.
Sure.
So we'll just go through the process, man, the origin story. Like, how did you get started in this? Because I understand that you're actually an optometrist.
Well, no, I used to be a district manager for a big corporate optometry firm. So that's what I did before what I do now. My cousin actually started the first shop in Jacksonville in 2018. And we went to start helping him on the weekends, me and my dad, just because they were so busy. Mm-hmm. And as we started to look at the books a little more, it was something that was looking a lot more scalable.
Yeah.
So then that's when we looked in and bought Richmond, Virginia. And then that's kind of what started the whole domino effect of actually Wilmington opening, was that we were expanding, and then we sold Richmond and then brought those winnings down to Wilmington.
Nice. Mm-hmm. That's how you do it, man. I mean, you're my model, dude. Like, I love talking to people who have been able to do something, because that's kind of what I'm trying to do here with this place is grow it to a certain point so I can step back a little bit. Yep. And not have to be, I'd rather be strategic than tactical, you know? And you understand the difference between that, man. But it can be a bit of a chore to explain it to someone who just doesn't get the two. There's two different principles, right? And you have to have two different mindsets, right? So, but dude, I'm 52. I don't want to be in the trenches anymore.
Yeah. In most cases, you're only as good as the people you hire. Personnel is number one.
Yeah, and if it's only you, like if you're your only employee, then it's your fault.
Yep, exactly.
What were some of the challenges you guys faced early on? How did you overcome those?
So a lot of cash flow, definitely cash flow. I think that's a big underbelly of the business world that not everybody's comfortable talking about. Mm-hmm. I'm comfortable talking about it. Right. Cash flow is a huge issue, especially for us. Let's say you do a large electronic project with paint protective films and et cetera, you may rack up a $10,000 to $20,000 bill. Yeah. In our case, we're in that, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever our cost line may be, until it checks out.
Right.
So sometimes it takes, a few weeks to check out. So you're kind of holding this huge rock, just kind of waiting for the bill to check out. That way you can make the profit. And think about doing that with 10 cars at the same time. Right. It really can create a cost of goods cash flow issue, but that's the beginning. After the first year or so, it does get easier.
Right. Yeah, because you got to have, and you're right. A lot of people don't realize that you have to have something to sustain it with beforehand. This is why I tell people, if young people who are like, oh, I'm going to quit my day job and just go all in. It's like, don't do that. Mm-hmm. Like use your day job to bankroll your side hustle. Don't just quit because what happened to me, this place got shut down, dude. And then I didn't have a job at all, but luckily the group I was in, I went there and was like, I don't have a job anymore, as you all know, because the gym shut down. So I was like, I need some work. And I was they kept me in work. I went from working 6 days a week, working 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. During COVID, worked 7 days a week the whole time, and then this never stopped. Mm-hmm. So dude, I want a vacation, man.
Yeah, no, it's there's something to be said about don't put all your eggs into one basket, but then if you find a new basket, don't dump them all in at one time.
Exactly, man. Exactly. So what would have been the turning point to where you and your team said, whoa, like we can all be profitable and what's the word I'm looking for? Or whatever, just like this is going to be sustainable. This is something we can do, and we can all have a good life off of this. When was that turning point?
Well, it's been different for each location. For Wilmington, we just kind of had our aha moment a few weeks ago.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we only opened May of last year, so it was probably like month 14, I would say, total calendar that we kind of found our rhythm. So the thing with like a Tint World is they give you 30 service categories.
Right.
Most Tint Worlds are going to focus on like 10 of them. Mm-hmm. Some will branch out to 20. we really tried all 30, like really tried.
Right.
So there was a bit of trial and tribulation of, we should do this service here. And in different markets, there are different needs for different things. So right now, we've kind of found our niche on what exactly we're going to be doing, what our core clients are, who our buybacks are, all of those things. And that usually takes a year or so.
Yeah.
But now we know exactly what kind of store we are. We know exactly which service categories we focus on, what's our 1, 2, and 3, and et cetera.
Right.
So the first year, you kind of experiment. You're like, we offer everything, and then just kind of wait and see what people want to buy.
Yeah.
Now we figured that out.
Yeah. Well, because that's right. You can offer anything to the market, but the market dictates what it wants. Right. You can't make people buy stuff that they don't want or need.
And there's a lot of investment that goes into it. I mean, when you think about what we're doing, we're running like 5 or 6 different shops. We're running a vinyl shop. We're running a PPF shop. We're running a tint shop. So all of these service categories, these very niche ones, they all require a ton of startup. Like leather seats, for example. That's a great category. We do them, but we don't do a ton of them. But just to get into that, you have to spend like a couple $1,000s on leather presses and steamers. And, you probably will have to train a technician too. And there's some money spent there. And so there's just a lot that goes into it. So we tried everything the first year. Now it's like, hey, we know exactly what we're doing.
Right.
Got the perfect machinery, everything.
What are your 2 biggest categories, the 2 money makers?
Probably tint and ceramic coating.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the 2 biggest ones. Honorable mention, 12 volt, anything electrical related, those end up being a pretty big category for us too.
Right. Now, is it just normally audio stuff, or is it like interior lighting too, or video?
It's everything. Yeah, so that is one thing where we've really gone nuts on. So we have Marcus working for us. He's a top 50 installer in the nation. And as far as 12 volt goes, we do everything. The only thing that we're limited to are things that literally must be done by dealerships because they make them specifically that way.
Right.
Like coding and software and things like that. But we do remote starts. We do all the speakers, subs, amps, and radios. We do alarm systems as simple or complicated as you need. We do all the fleet upfitting, so emergency lighting, emergency radios, bars. We do mechanical stuff, so we do wheels, tires, exhaust. He does all that.
Good grief.
We do fiber optic lighting, LED lighting, headlights. I could keep going. It's a Rolodex of those services.
That's insane. Yeah, just check it out, people. Like, just go to the website, check it out. Or if you're I'll put the B-roll in this with the pool table so they can see. Like, they have fun up there. They got a pool table. What did you have to sacrifice to get to this point?
A lot of free time.
Yeah,
a lot of free time.
I hear that.
I can say it. I can honestly say it did not encroach my family time, which is really important.
Right.
So that's primary one. But my free time, as far as the ability to just kind of go do whatever I want to do on a random Tuesday or Wednesday, sometimes that fizzles away pretty quickly.
Right. Yeah. And I'm sure you've heard it said too. I forget who said it first, but one of the hustle culture people was like, "There's no such thing as work-life balance."
Right.
You're either, but you know what? And I kind of agree with that, because if you're working, if you're trying to build something, especially if you're taking it over like you did and you came in and were like, okay, we're going to build this up from scratch, you have to put all the investment into it. You got to put the time into it. And that means that everything else is not going to get the time, you know? And so, but then once you get to a point where like now you've done the hard work in the beginning, now on the back end, you can kind of step away because the machinery will run itself. Right?
Yeah. Luckily, we hired a general manager, which for everyone out there, get a GM as soon as you can. but
it's worth the expense.
Oh my gosh, yes. But no, all jokes aside, that's kind of been the biggest reason why we've had our aha moment in the last few months. Mm-hmm. We have somebody other than just the owners running the front with us.
Yeah.
That is so beyond helpful, because it's one of those things where, like, if we couldn't get it done, it just wasn't happening.
Right.
And that doesn't mean it's less important. It just means there's only so many hours to the week, and you can only do so much with your time before you burn out.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, with him coming, we've really had an opportunity Cam and I, to own the business and not work at the business.
Yeah, that's a big point, dude.
It is.
Because otherwise, when you say owner operator, what you've just told me is that you've created a job for yourself, mm-hmm. but you're your own boss, mm-hmm. so you don't have nobody to complain to.
Right, exactly.
Because that's what I have here, right? I can't. It's only me. I've always mm-hmm. been like a one-man show, and not that I haven't tried to build teams, but usually when a couple times when I did, something happened on their end where they couldn't do it. And then the last time I had 3 guys ready to roll, and COVID came and shut everything down. So it's like, it's always difficult to get that momentum back, right?
Yep.
I'm almost to that point, but again, I think it's better to focus on the one thing or the one entity, so you can put all your attention into that and make it grow, instead of having to like be pulled in all these different directions, because you can't be good at anything that way. So what about a customer impact story? Like, what was something, what jumps out at you as a story where it had a significant impact on a customer's life?
This one it was a client, but they never spent any money. We had a gentleman and his very young child come in, and they were building this like school project, and they had built this like little figurine thing, and it was like a small home. And one of the final details of it was supposed to be a skyscraper, so they needed the sides to be mirrored. So he came in and he was like, "Can you guys like tint this little house?" And I was like, my technicians can't, but I know you can. We'll cut it up into little pieces for him. And then I showed him how to like stick it on there. So basically it was residential film I gave him, so it was actually the right film, but they were able to take that home and put it on. And I think they went and won their school project with that, because
get out of here.
Other than just that last detail, it was extremely well done. It was a really, really cool project. So that was a cool one.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that was a cool one.
Yes, I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, that's why I do this, so we can find out that little stuff, because like people wouldn't have, who knows that? Only that person, right?
As far as a paid client goes, so we do a lot of work with medical films, like the Skin Cancer Foundation approved films. So we get a lot of patients who are what's called the NC DOT waiver program.
Okay.
So they may have some sort of cancer or some sort of eye issue that basically makes them photosensitive to UV and infrared, basically solar energy.
Right.
And our films are basically what get rid of that. So I did have a gentleman come in, and we worked next to the state port, and he had been driving trucks his entire life. His entire arm. Oh yeah, I mean, it was just, he was in really bad shape. I mean, you could see this half of his face was very obviously different from this half.
Right.
And he basically said, "I've been driving for a career, I've never had tint." He had no idea what it could do, so we put it on for him. So we put on the high grade Expel, and he was like, he was like, "I can put on the air conditioner, and I feel great now." Because it's basically, he's sunburned his entire life on his arm.
Yeah. Dude, I used to drive a work van I did installs for like 14 years. And me and my partner were like, we're going to get limo black tint. This is dark. Not on the driver and passenger side, but for the back stuff. One, so people couldn't see in and see what we had to steal it from us.
Right.
But two, it kept the interior so much cooler, so your AC doesn't have to work as hard. You know, people who have tinted windows know this, but for those of you who don't, right, especially here in Wilmington, man, like get it done, because your car will run easier. Has there been a failure that at the time you were like, man, this is a pretty big failure, but now you look at it as a blessing in disguise?
Oh, we've had several of those. Yeah, we've had several of those. I mean, it goes back to what I was saying before about, kind of learning different departments and kind of picking and choosing what you want to do. I'm trying to think of which one would be the best example. There have been a few services that we tried, and, you get in there and you buy the equipment, you buy the products, you train your staff, and then it just kind of gets lost in the sauce for us. So probably the biggest thing was just, it's a hard question to answer. I'll give you that one. That's a hard question to answer. There were a few services, probably leather. I would say leather. Yeah. Leather, we bought, a big sort of, like a big steamer for it, a big headrest thing. I mean, we were well over $1,000 into that. We set up this big pricing category, and then just nobody kind of came for that one. You know what I mean? We just couldn't sell it. We even got to the point one day where it was like, if we were just a leather store, right, and we had to feed our families, what would we be doing with leather right now? Yeah. Tried those strategies. Still just couldn't break into it.
Just not the market won't support it.
No, there's a lot of competition. So that's the other thing with having a business that does so many things. Right. We're not just competing with a tint store. Yeah. Or just the 12-volt shops. We're competing with everybody who does any of our service categories. So there are some of them where it's just like, okay, fine, you can have that one. Yeah. And leather was one of them.
Right. It's like our margin's too low on that anyway.
It really was. I mean, and the prices they're doing it at, I honestly don't know how they're doing it. If they're ordering the same products we are, which they are, I don't know how they're doing it.
I don't know. That's crazy, man. What about an unexpected success?
Unexpected success here in Wilmington would be our fleet and municipal work for sure.
Oh, I bet. Good grief. I bet that was like, whoa, we got them all?
Yeah, so everywhere we go, we do our best to do that. And in other markets, it would be considered an abnormal success to be able to get one fleet.
Right.
To be able to say, hey, I got an entire police department. They have, several hundred cars. That's a big deal. For us, we really just focused on it hard right out of the gate. And, the first few months we had all the meetings. We met everybody, we showed them what we could do, and then kind of just, it was like, all right, here's the ball. You've got the ball now. Let us know when you're ready.
Right.
And it was very endearing and very humbling for almost everyone to call us back right away. Placing real work orders, actual government vehicles. They're trusting us, they're loving us. And all of those came and went with such success that now that we're in year 2, same agencies, same administrators bringing back this year's group of vehicles. So
wow.
that would be the most unexpected one. We knew that by spending all that time in the beginning, it would get us something.
Yeah.
I did not anticipate that it would be almost 20% of our weekly volume.
Good grief.
So
20%. Wow.
It can be quite high some weeks.
How many departments is it? Is it all of them in New Hanover County? Or?
I have a board in the office right now. I think I'm tracking 16 fleets. Yeah, so just within a 30-mile radius here, there are 7 police departments total.
Right.
Not counting the sheriff's office.
Right.
Not counting the 2 sheriff's offices, I'm sorry, if you count Brunswick as well.
You got Brunswick too?
We've not done work for them yet, but New Hanover is a very big one for us.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there's all these fire departments as well. And they all do different things. The police upfitting is more about emergency lighting, sirens, cages, and bars, like safety equipment.
You guys are putting the bars in?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they bring you a naked Ford Explorer and a pallet of stuff, and you go.
Huh.
Yeah,
How
you
about
go.
that?
Yeah, it's just a basic Ford Explorer before.
I thought they did that in-house. I didn't know they... Ha-ha!
We are the in-house, yeah. It's
like,
in our house.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. Then the fire departments, they do the solar tint and ceramic coatings.
Yeah.
So they want their trucks to be hydrophobic and shiny and easy to clean.
Yep.
That's a no-brainer. And then they do the high-grade solar tint for the windows, because if there is one person that wants to be able to cool off in the summertime,
yeah,
a firefighter who's fully geared coming back from a literal fire.
Exactly. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt about it, man. What about the emotional journey of what was a high point, what was a low point?
The emotional journey, high point, I would say my daughter's spending a lot of time at the business. She is really involved. She's only 7, but she gets to spend a lot of time there. It's fun to be able to have a place where she can come and feel safe and get involved when she wants to. Like sometimes, when we're slow, I'll just give her a little piece of vinyl and she can go try to stick it on my car and see if she can get it on and stuff like that.
That's so cool, man. Mm-hmm. And especially if you're a kid and you get to because it's like, when we were kids, we're playing with cars, right? Mm-hmm. Now you get to play with cars for real, for a living, and you get paid for it. Dude, you're driving a Corvette just for work. It's like, that's my work car.
Yeah, that's my daily. It's terrible, I know. Yeah.
Right? How many people get to say that?
Yeah, it could be worse.
What other ones do you have? Like, is there another one? Another like super cool car that you get to drive on a daily basis?
So in our fleet, my cousin has a Mitsubishi Evo, and that's his project car, similar to my Corvette. He's got all of his preferences in that one.
Right.
My uncle has a Ford Mustang. He has all of his preferences in that one.
Nice.
And then my dad has a Ram, and he has kind of all his preferences into that one. So we kind of have...
You got all those market segments covered.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah, we've got something for everybody. The low point, I'd say the low point is sleepless nights from time to time. That's when you really feel the burn of having your own business. It's kind of like you were saying a moment ago. If something goes wrong, you don't have anybody to blame. You just have to figure it out. So a lot of times you'll have a little bit of anxiety and it'll be hard going to sleep because you're already on the next day. And you're like, okay, here's what happened today. How am I going to counteract that, before 8 a.m.? How am I going to hit the ground running? Yeah. And so that to me is the low point. Again, it's an underbelly that every business owner has had at one point, and it's something I don't mind talking about. It's real, and it's a thing, Well,
you have to. I mean, you have to. I like watching Alex Hormozy, right? He's been what he said is that if you're not stressed, you're not in business. Yeah. He goes, because he's like, life is stressful anyway, but he's like, in business, there's always something going on. Yeah. So if you're not having something that you have to solve or figure out or strategize with, he's like, you're not in business, And I kind of agree with that because dude, it's always something, but it keeps us sharp, you know. And the negative stuff or the downsides, we're supposed to learn from that so we can come back like kind of more resilient, stronger, bigger, stronger, faster, you know, for the next time around. Or at least we should anyway, because otherwise what are we doing, right? You're just wasting time and money at that point. What is the number one lesson you've learned since you've been in business doing this, in this business?
It'll go back to what I said a moment ago. You are only as good as the people you hire.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have had several different groups of technicians over the years at all the locations, and it's the same owners. You know what I mean? It's the same people running it. It's the same systems. It's the same inventory and product lines.
Man,
it's the same building layout. I mean, the variables are so controlled and specific. The only thing different is who did we hire and who works there. And in our industry, a great technician, like, again, I'll talk about my boy Marcus, a great technician, an award-winning technician, I can book anything. 12 volt, like somebody, it's like, oh, we got you. I may not know the answer, go to the shop, he's got you.
Right.
Other categories, you know, you can get a little gun shy. You know, if it's a very advanced, you know, like a leather or vinyl install, you got to have the perfect guy. It's got to be perfect. It's just, so some shops can, some shops can't. You know, and we've seen that where even we have traveling techs because we know our technicians are so good at such specific things. Like, hey, no, we'll bring him in from Jacksonville to do this one. Or no, send him from Wilmington. He's good at this one niche thing. So, in our industry, with what we do, we demand perfection from everybody.
Right.
And the clients are going to demand it too. So that could be the biggest thing. It's you're only as good as the people you hire, unless you're going to do every single install yourself.
Yeah. In which case you're not an owner at that point. You're
Lead technician.
You're an employee, right?
Yeah, getting the most out of that operator part of the owner-operator. Right. Yeah, it's like they're really getting the most out of that.
Like, which hat do you want to wear, right? And it be, you know, it's like, again, Alex always says that you either have time or money, right? You can throw, if there's a problem, you can throw money at it and solve it, or if you don't have money, then you have to use the time, you know. And so it behooves you as a business owner to get to the point where you can throw money at it instead. I think because he was like, you know, revenue solves 99% of your problems, you know, and I'm like, well, that's pretty true. Outside of the pool table, which is awesome, by the way, what's something behind the scenes that happens that people wouldn't normally know, but would find interesting or fascinating? And there's like, dude, there's a lot. Like, I know there's a lot because you have all this different stuff going on, right? But what's something that would be just really interesting?
Our shop is interactive, whereas most are not. Almost all are not. We built this shop specifically for transparency and to basically make a zoo for cars in a way. So, for example, you can come to our shop. We have the big wide open lobby that you can see everything, but if you'd like to, we have 2 different areas where you can actually view the entire shop space from one point of view. Right. And that does a few cool things. One, if you have a high-end vehicle and you want to see it getting worked on, you can see the process happening. You know, if we're doing a ton of stuff to your vehicle, you can actually see it. It's not necessarily hands-on, but you can come back and see exactly what we're doing. We'll give you an update daily. And then for other people who don't really know much about the industry, most of our average Joes don't understand that much about cars. You know, they're not meant to. They're not technicians. So they get to walk to that door and they're like, whoa, I didn't know you guys wrapped. What is this color? And then they see us like you came and you saw a big red Cybertruck or something crazy like that. Or, and then the other thing too is it creates a full system of transparency. At other places, when you get work done, you have to just blindly trust whoever may be working the front desk. You walk in, you order what you want, you hand them the keys, and that's it. You go sit down, you see your car drive away, and then you see it come drive back. With us, again, if you get curious or you want to see how it looks on the in-between, come take a look. We don't mind. And you can shoot a game of pool to pass the time. We are the only shop on the East Coast that has a pool table. We try to make the wait time easy on you. Right. Yeah. and they got a fully stocked vending machine with all kinds of cool stuff in there. Yeah, it's like a little sports bar there for your wait. That's very cool though, because you're right. Not a lot of people have that. And I mean, dude, I wonder if you'll start a trend of that where other people are doing it, you know? If there are any shop owners that listen to your podcast, it is an insane cheat code for upselling. Literally, it's an insane cheat code for upselling because people will see things happening And it's like when you're at a restaurant and you see the plate of fajitas go by and you can just see like a plume of steam coming off of it. You're like, man, I want that. It's the same thing. When they see us finished up polishing and ceramic coating a car and it looks better than it did on the show lot when they bought it, they're like, man, can you do that to my car? It's like, absolutely. Here you go. We'll take them through the process and show them what we're doing.
That's so crazy, man.
Yep. They come for tint and then they end up being a lifetime client with 10 other things.
That's how you do it, people. Like you want to talk about how you, it's not even an upsell. That's just added value, you know?
It is.
It's a value add.
It's the same thing for our fleet clients. If you want to get all these things done with your car, there are 2 ways to do it. You can go to 5 shops to have 5 different things done, or you can come to us and have all 5 things done at the same time in the same building.
Yeah.
Hold one person accountable.
Yeah.
One person's in control of your warranties. It makes it so much easier for the client. And cheaper, usually.
Yeah.
And cheaper.
Yeah, because...
when you overlap services, they discount each other because a lot of times they have things you have to do, and if
you're already in there anyway.
Yeah, if you've already done the prep, you don't have to charge for it again. Right. You know.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. The car's already pulled apart. You don't have to charge for electrical breakdown. You know, it's like everything's done.
If you got everything in pieces anyway.
Yeah.
What do you see the evolution of the brand? Like, how was it before, and how is it today? And something that you would have never thought it would be from the start.
So Tint World as a company is on an exponential growth pattern. When we started back in 2018, and don't hold me to this, but I believe it was in between 30 to 40 franchises nationwide. Mm-hmm. Now they are knocking on 200's door.
Whoa.
Yeah, so they're opening quite a lot of new stores. I'm on the Franchise Advisory Council as the chairperson.
Right.
So I speak for the franchisees to corporate. We have different regions we talk to. Try to get all that data and give it to corporate in a usable way. And then a lot of that stuff too is really big ticket items. So we've really been working on a lot lately. But Tint World as a whole, I think in the next 5 years, and that's the reason that we have franchises and continue to buy more, is they will eventually be the McDonald's or Walmart of the automotive styling space.
Yeah.
Our business model, every town it goes into, it absolutely thrives.
Right.
They're in almost every market, so the nationwide warranty is now strong.
Right.
You can say nationwide warranty, right, and have one in North Carolina and one in California and be like, we're nationwide.
Yeah.
But like now it's well saturated. So when people are moving away, it's like, oh no, you actually have one in that town. So yeah, Tint World as a brand is going to continue to grow, and I think we're going to go right along with it.
That's so crazy, man. Yeah, because you're right. I don't think there's anybody that in that market that does what you guys do the way you guys do it. Certainly not with all the services combined under one roof.
No.
You know? I mean, there's just nobody that can pull that off.
It's not possible for a local dealer to do so because the only way to offer so many services and do so in a cost-effective way is to have a national company with buying power. Mm-hmm. Like our vendor pricing and our opening order pricing, for example, would probably be 50% cost of what a private dealer would have to get it for.
Right.
Just because it's, hey, we're Tint World. We got 200 stores doing it.
Yeah.
You don't have to retail us that hard.
Right.
You know, so there's all kinds of built-in benefits like that where, like, you know, if you were going to open, let's say, a tint shop, all your resources could be guided toward that, and you'd still have the same displays as me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's really the only way to do it is to partner with a national franchise who already has built-in benefits, built-in dealer accounts, built-in opening packages. That's the big thing with Tint World. They make it so simple for you. All you have to do is just show up and be like, okay, this is my building. Let's stuff it with displays and stuff, you know, and then you pick your categories and you go from there.
What market has been the most, or has the most promise in the next, like, 2-3 years, you think?
The up-and-coming, there's 2 big up-and-comers right now. It's home services and 48-volt vehicles or electric vehicles.
Oh, okay.
So electrical shops are just now getting around the curve of, like, Tesla and Ford. They all are making electric vehicles now.
Yep.
They're all different. They all have slight nuances to each other. And you have to be more different. You have to be careful with an electric vehicle for just so many reasons.
Oh yeah, you get the voltage wrong or something, and half the systems will go down, and then you're like, "Who did that?"
Exactly. Yeah. So and it can get crazy really fast, and they're basically just one big laptop too. So it's not like it's not like you can just pull a part out and replace the part and be like, "Yeah, it's fixed."
No,
it's
you gotta go back in there and set parameters and all kinds of stuff.
But no, home services is the biggest one. That's the one that Tint World is focusing the most on right now. Residential films are huge. They're a big category.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as tint films go, they go neck and neck with automotive every week.
Yeah.
We do just as much house and commercial as we do automotive. You know?
Now, is that nationwide or is it only here on the coast?
Every market's different. So that goes back to like the Franchise Advisory Council. There are some Tint World locations that thrive and do it weekly and do it well. There are others who have never done it and they're scared to death to place their first order. So it goes both ways. So that's part of the FAC is kind of bridging that gap of like, no, the water's good, go ahead and dive in, you know, spend the money, you'll make it back.
Right.
But again, it's one of those things. They're doing their auto tint so well, they're doing ceramic coatings, PPF and audio. They're like, we're good. Like we're breaking even and plus. So it's like, do we want to do this? So it's like I was telling you earlier, it's one of those things where it's like, am I sure? Do I make this investment? Do I take this next step? Because this is now a new headache. But it's also a new business.
Right.
It could be profitable. It could not be, you know.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff that goes into it. So for them, there's some that are struggling and some that aren't. But for us here on the coast, we chose it to be one of our core services.
Oh, it's a no-brainer out here, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's so hot here.
Yeah.
You know, like over in, you know, South Dakota where it's snowing constantly. Maybe not. But here, and especially here with hurricane film, too.
Yeah.
Our biggest one here is safety film because people have trees and foreign objects smashing windows. And then even if you evacuate, the window's smashed, the home's going to get flooded, so you're still going to come back to nothing.
Yep.
So we've been doing that for a lot of people, and we've seen a ton of value in that, especially with the hurricanes that have come through here recently. People are really, you know, aware of that right now.
Right. Yeah, and I would imagine that's not a hard sell, you know.
No,
because again, it's almost not even it almost is a necessity. I don't want to say it is, but it could, depending on where you're at, certainly if you're on the coast or close enough, man, or if you're surrounded by stuff that can be thrown at your house.
Most people don't realize there are actually insurance benefits to safety and solar films. Yeah, between your HVAC system and what we just described, there are benefits that insurance companies will actually reimburse you.
Yeah.
They want you to have an energy effective home. They want you to have windows that don't burst so you can't destroy the house and make a claim.
Yeah, because they don't want to
yeah, seriously.
They don't want to pay it.
Because what happens when the window breaks? Who's the first person you're picking up the phone and calling other than 911? You're going to call your insurance people and be like, hey, my house is cooked. I'm so sorry. Like my window broke.
And they'll be like, didn't you put film on it?
Yeah,
did you put a piece of plywood over it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. What barrier did you have?
Yeah. So, as far as people that have helped you, who has been the most influential or most helpful person to you in the business?
My dad and my uncle.
Really?
Yeah, myself and my cousin, we are the main operators. So we run the business. We're there every day of the week mostly. We are the actual operators. But anytime we've needed creative input or just like somebody to just kind of slap us in the back of the head and keep it real, they've been there for us. So that is invaluable. Having a group behind you to keep you humble when you start doing good is a really valuable thing, because when you start to profit and you start to make money and you're driving around town in a Corvette and doing different things, you have to have people to keep you grounded. Yeah. To remind you that, hey, like, we're a family business. There's so much more meat on the bone. Like, refocus, stay locked in. Yeah. You know, we're not done yet. So that's been extremely helpful. So they come down, and like my dad will come down and just help us with an event here and there, but it's extremely helpful. And then like my uncle, my cousin's dad, he'll come down and he'll cover the front for a day so we can, take an afternoon off or something. And that is just, I mean, you have a business, I can't tell you know how helpful that would be. Oh, yeah. Just, hey, it's lunchtime, go home, be like, oh, thank you, all right, I'll be back tomorrow. It's like, I'm out of here.
Dude, yeah, it's, because when you get that time, because you're like, that's the thing that you can give somebody who is always hustling is time, right? Time to spend with their family, time to just chill out and not have to deal with all the stuff, you know what I mean? I got a friend of mine who's like, he doesn't want a lot of stuff, and so I'm always, when his birthday comes around, I'm like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to leave him alone. I'm just going to give him the time, right? Because that's the one thing that he doesn't have a lot of, is his own time. It's there's all these entities that are pulling on him for his time, and I'm like, yeah, I'm your friend. I'm not going to do that, you know?
Yeah, you got to stay whole, because you can't give anything to anybody else if you're not whole.
So true, man. So true. So as far as a vision for the future, and you kind of spoke on that a little bit, so you don't have to spend a lot of time with this, but like, where do you see it going? And I guess, going nationwide and kind of, because I don't see anybody else in that market that is going to dominate like you guys are going to dominate. I mean, and I think you guys already know it.
Yeah, we're in the front seat right now, and in order to catch up to us, another business would have to spend, I can't tell you how much to catch up. It would be a huge moving of the earth.
Yeah, they'd have to put millions in front end investment, and then they'd have to train a force, and they'd have to brand. You guys are so far ahead of the pack, man.
What we're really looking for, the next big step, and this is something we're making concrete moves toward every day, is my uncle used to have a fleet company. Mm-hmm. So when an executive needs a car, they come into town, they rent a car. It's not like an enterprise. It's a higher grade version of that.
Sure.
But it's logistics, moving vehicles around the country. In the meantime, you have to detail them, you have to oil them, you have to make sure they're good. So there's a whole checklist that goes when you turn the car over.
Right.
That company was doing that, and he folded that. So what we're planning to do is eventually we're working with Tint World Corporate. As Tint World continues to saturate the United States, what they're doing is they're getting locations at all the major fleet hubs too.
Oh, smart.
So once we get to that point and we've got all the major cities and all the major fleet hubs and we've covered the Midwest and all that good stuff, then we're going to open a fleet program, which means that Tint World owners can opt in or opt out, just like with any of the services. And if they'd like to be a fleet provider, then they can store the vehicles for a charge. They can oil the vehicles for a charge. They can detail them, they can upfit them, they can hold them, they can do all those things. It creates a huge secondary flow of income that requires little to no attention from the business owner itself.
Right.
Once it gets started, it's a corporate run program. You just get the cars, they show up on a truck, you store them, you rent them, whatever. It's very simple and straightforward. It will probably be the biggest game changer about Tint World in the business model, because the hard part about fleet is having properties all over the country. You have to have storage lots.
Yep.
And in order to purchase a storage lot in Dallas or, in Chicago or San Antonio,
you need to be there.
Yeah, you got to be there, and then it can be very expensive.
Yeah.
So what makes it not expensive is when a business owner already owns space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then it's just for them, it's just a pass-through. Hey, I'm going to park these cars here. You're going to make $10 a night. It's like, okay. I'm going to park 10 of them. You made $100 tonight. Okay.
Dude, that is what a way to think outside the box, or just, that's not even thinking outside the box. That's just maximizing your resources. Mm-hmm. Like, I already have space. I've seen your lot, man. Mm-hmm. It's pretty big.
I could store 20 cars there and nobody would even notice.
Yep. Good grief. I mean,
so that's how you do it. It's like building up, the skeleton of real estate without having to buy the real estate.
Dude, this has been such a good time talking to you, because it's just, I mean, one, I like you, you're a good guy, but then two, the amount of I mean, you're humble, you're knowledgeable, and these are you can apply this to almost any business. This is not these philosophies or these ways of thinking that you're talking about are not just only for Tint World itself. Mm-hmm. This is how you can just kind of analyze your current business model and go, how can I maximize this? Mm-hmm. There's so much value here, man. It's like,
right now we're just charging up, but every year that goes by, I just did a new owner call, so I also do the new owner trainings as well for Tint World.
Right.
And basically they give me 30 minutes with the new franchisees without any corporate people on the call.
Sure.
And that's their time to ask real questions.
Dude,
about like,
Yeah. Man.
I keep it real with them too.
Yeah.
I don't work for corporate. I tell them exactly, like, they ask a question, I'm like, yep, nope, here's how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's awesome, dude, because that's the thing too. Like, if I was going to be a franchisee owner, that's exactly what I'd want, because I'm like, corporate's going to tell me one thing, but if they're not here in this market dealing with this stuff, I need to know somebody I want to talk to somebody that's been there and done that.
Yeah.
Right. And you're not only in the Wilmington market, you're in Wilmington, Jacksonville, Connecticut, and I mean, and then wherever else that you've been and seen and talked to those guys. So it's like you understand probably more than anybody else at the whole organization how things are going to run on the ground.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good idea for them to call you.
Yeah. It's interesting in the franchise world, and again, I view this unbiasedly, but there can be a conflict of interest between what the franchisor wants and what the franchisee wants. You know, not everything that's good for Tint World HQ is going to be good for each individual location.
Yep.
So my job with the FAC is to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
And say, no, this will be good for a franchisee. Or if they go to a conference and they find a new product or a new thing they're excited about, I can look at it and say, oh yeah, you know, this one could be profitable on store level, or no, the buy-in package is $10,000. It's going to be over a year before a franchisee sees an ROI on this. Like, this isn't a good look. It's the slow season now, you know?
Right.
Stuff like that. And so, yeah, it's interesting to see as time goes on just how to flirt that tightrope of being in the best interest for both parties. And so that's been interesting to see. I've learned a ton about that, because when you have a franchise, you get directive from the corporate office, and not everybody gets to understand that.
Right.
They don't always get the why. I get the why.
Yeah.
So at least I know what's going on and why they made those decisions. 95% of the time, anytime somebody has an issue with something a franchisor does, if you're able to effectively explain the why, all the flames are done, everything's good. Because it's like, hey, like, you know, they were going to do this if we didn't do this. We had to do it, you know, for you. And it's like, oh, well, I didn't know that. So I think that's been the most valuable thing we've done is just set up that line of communication between the two, because the fog of war can sometimes create a little bit of, I don't know how to describe it, almost like an ick feeling for the other party, because you don't really know what they're doing.
Right, yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, and it's kind of like communication up and down the chain of command too, really, is kind of what that reminds me of, because you get, you know, in a military operation, you'll get orders from the brass and they'll come down and they'll filter out your, you know, commanders on the ground. And then the guys on the ground will be like, what? What? Why? And that's the first
question.
thing. It's like, why are we doing this? It makes no sense to. So, and they have to do the same thing too. But as if you're a special ops group, then you have everything that you, like all the missions that you want to run, you gotta toss it up to them, and they have to sign off on it. So if you can't make them understand why you want to do the thing you want to do, they're not going to clear your operation. It's not going to be a go. So it kind of works both ways. And you have the unique position of being the guy in the middle who is communicating in both directions. Dude, you're at a good spot.
Yeah, it's an interesting position to be in, and of course it adds value to my investment in my own businesses.
Sure.
Because I get to be on the cutting edge of decision making before it affects the franchises.
Right.
But yeah, it's been quite an interesting process to get to this point.
Well, not everybody's built for that either. And I think your temperament, your personality, and how you communicate with people is lends itself well to that, being in that position, because some people could not handle that position.
You have to be able to listen to people. You have to be able to listen to people and hear, not just listen, but hear what they say. And remember what they say, because they talk to you about it. They're going to expect you to remember every single word of it, you know. And so it's one of those things where you're only as good as your word, and unfortunately, in a lot of cases, you're only as good as your memory. So write good notes, and you know, especially when people are talking to you, because these franchisees I'm talking to, I mean, their whole life is put into this business just like me. This is their livelihood. They've got kids in school. They've got stuff going on. They need to pay bills. And, you know, if they can't right their ship or figure out their obstacle, then they really panic. You know, they'll hit the panic button and really start to worry big time. So they take it very seriously.
It's your livelihood.
They should.
So landing the plane, my man, the legacy, right? When people talk about you in the business, like years from now, what do you hope they will say?
He was helpful.
There you go. What a great one, man.
Yeah, I was able to learn something, and he was, you know, his time with me was valuable.
Yeah.
Because I go around and I do these things for people, and I spend a lot of my own personal time, not all of it's paid time, and I just hope that they're getting something out of it, and that I'm not just, I don't want people, if I'm ever giving advice, I don't want people to ever feel like I'm on a horse or talking down to them by any means, just because I know the way around a situation they don't.
Right.
I hope they know it's coming from a humble place, and I hope that I was helpful, you know, and I spent my time well.
Yeah, dude, and I believe it comes through, man, because again, even just this right here, there's like so much value. Anybody that's like kind of got their ears peaked to find nuggets of wisdom about how not just philosophy but operational stuff too, right? I mean, there was a lot of stuff that we covered in just this conversation here. that like I'm thinking, oh man, I'm gonna take that philosophy and apply it and see if I can't make something happen, right? And I mean, I'm kind of doing a lot of that stuff anyway, but like, I mean, it's always good to talk to people who are, you know, in a position like yourself where it's not just a one thing, right? Sure, you're doing this across this particular industry, but the mindset and the skill set, right? The people skills, right? The management skills, the logistics skills. I mean, your skill set is a lot of stuff all combined together, right? Most people don't do that. They're only good at like one or two things, right? That's me. I'm only good at like three things, right? But you're having to be good at like about 4 or 5 things all at once.
I'm in this industry, at least in the automotive industry, I'm considered an outlier.
Yeah.
I have a master's degree in finance. I was in healthcare for a long time. So I was supposed to be a hospital administrator for my whole career.
Okay.
So I did a lot of analytics, a lot of data, a lot of trends, a lot of planning and things like that, and budgeting. And so to be able to come over this to a totally different industry and see almost all of the same concepts apply almost all the exact same way made me really happy.
Yeah.
And it made it where I was able to be much more valuable than the average operator, because a lot of these guys, they may know how to run a shop.
Right.
It doesn't mean they're a full-time accountant. You know, it doesn't mean they know how to run their spreadsheets and that stuff. And that's sometimes where you can lose your butt. You know, you have this perception of profit, and then you sit down and you look at your P&L and you're like, wait, what?
Whoa, what happened?
How do we spend trash bags? How many trash bags we buy? You know what I mean? It's like, It's like stuff like that. It's like, but yeah, I think any business owner listening to this podcast, whatever you're going to do it. Just make sure you're double checking all your math and you're accounting for everything. And other than that, don't have any apprehensions. Don't be scared. I myself, and I'm sure you have, and again, every business owner, if they don't admit it, they're lying. Everyone has imposter syndrome from time to time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Where you have this idea and you're not doing it as much as you want to, or it's not as busy, or it just doesn't look like it's supposed to you. You just have to wait and trust the process. For me, it's, every week or so, I'll have the aha moment of like, I'll have like a slow Monday or like a low Tuesday. And then I come in Wednesday and I've got a Ferrari sitting next to a fire truck and I've got clients blowing up the phone, and it's just, that's the dream, So it's not going to be the dream every day.
Right.
Don't let the imposter syndrome or the sleepless nights like talk yourself out of it. Just, you got to keep going. And after, 4 or 5 years, you're going to look back and you're just going to laugh,
Yeah.
Make notes and take milestones and keep yourself humble, because like for me, just 2 years ago, my cousin and I were sprinting into the wall every day trying to find a commercial property in Wilmington.
Oh yeah.
That was the thing there. That's what had us about in tears 2 years ago. Then a year ago, it was like, oh, what are we going to be? Are we going to do this category? Are we going to do this category? Now we look back, it's like, Cam, remember 2 years ago? Like, show them like the little memes we made or something. It's like, you remember that? It's like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was dumb. Yeah, that sucked. But, so just stay humble, trust the people around you, hire good people, and go for it. And don't let a couple bad days ruin what could be a good week,
Absolutely, brother. Well, that's about as good a place to end it as any, man. Rob, thanks for coming, man.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Enjoyed it, man. This is, like I said, so much good stuff in here, man. I can't wait to chop this one up. Anyway, we'll catch you next time on the Business Builder Podcast. Peace out.